Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Power Shift Summit. My name is Natalie Jovity, and I am the Brilliance Unveiler and founder of The Unveil Way and host and presenter of the Power Shift Summit, Women Igniting Change and Shaping the Future. I am beyond thrilled to bring this event to women everywhere globally because I believe we're at a pivotal point in time in history where we are being called to rise up and shine and speak out and stand out. In these authentic, unedited conversations are meant to ignite your inner fire so you will be inspired, motivated, and emboldened to take the reins of your destiny and soar like the powerhouse woman that you are. And today's very special powerhouse speaker, who's also a dear trainer and coach of mine, is Joanna Lindenbaum. Welcome, Joanna.
I'm so happy and honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, you're so welcome. So Joanna Lindenbaum is the founder of the Applied Debt Institute, and she teaches master level facilitation and coaching skills to coaches, healers, therapists, and speakers so they can respond powerfully and effectively to the issues their clients bring to them. Using her 20 plus years of experience and extensive background with coaching, human behavior, embodiment, and archetype and shadow, Joanna's approach to ethical and trauma-informed facilitation and coaching supports her students to gain a level of skill, confidence, and depth the majority of their peers don't have. Graduates of her signature Sacred Depths practitioner certification become the best of the best at what they do. Plus, they experience life-changing personal transformations as they step into this mastery level. All of this in turn positively impacts their businesses as their proven results then attract more renewals, referrals, and professional opportunities. Joanna has led hundreds of retreats, workshops, and trainings with thousands of participants and clients in the US and abroad. Woo, woo, woo. All right, I'm so excited. So, our topic with Joanna today is leveraging the shadow of power in order to create what you want. And my first question, Joanna, to you is how would you define power?
Such a good question. We're going deep quick. So, the way that I think of power, and this is where I think when people don't look at it this way, this is where things get a little shadowy sometimes. But the way that I think of power is power with. So what that means is not that if I have power, that doesn't mean that I have power over someone else. It means that I am empowered inside of myself. And because of that, I can empower the other person as well.
Yeah. So tell us about this shadow side of power, Joanna, and what it means and what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we know, the definition that I just gave, the power with instead of the power over or the power under, that doesn't always happen in our culture, in our society. And unfortunately, we can tell many tales throughout history in so many different ways where power has been abused, where individuals or groups have taken power over others. We see this culturally, we see this in organizations, we see this in families, we see this in relationships, one on one, all of that. And so the shadow of power is this impulse to want all of the power.
Hmm.
That's one way to think of it. The shadow of power is greed. The shadow of power can be wanting to be the biggest person in the room. The shadow of power can be manipulating others or hurting them so that we can have more for ourselves.
Joanna, do you so my audience is predominantly women, as you know, and a lot of what I hear you saying right now in my mind, I think of patriarchy, I think of capitalism, I think of those kinds of things. Give me your perspective on that, like, this power over concept and where it came from, and how we can change and adapt to a more power with embodiment as women, as leaders, as in any aspect of our life, quite frankly.
Yeah, such a good question. So I can't say exactly where it comes from. I think it's in all the isms, and if I could take my best guess at where it comes from, and this is where things get layered and deep, it's because jealousy, greed, wanting to be the biggest in the room, even these things are part of our human nature. And I say that slowly because I want it to land for all of our listeners, because this is what happens with shadow. We decide that a part of ourselves is bad, is inappropriate, is unsavory. And then because of that, we store it away, right? Because we're good people and we want to belong and we want to be accepted. And so we decide my wanting to have power is bad. My wanting to be the biggest one in the room is bad and inappropriate. It's going to harm others, right? And then it becomes taboo.
Mm.
And when it becomes taboo and we pretend this isn't a part of me, it has so much more power over us than if we were to confront it and be with it and learn how to work with it in ways that are helpful and appropriate for us and for the whole world, to be helpful in the world. And so I'll give a really personal example.
Yeah.
When I first started my business, I um I had a secret desire to be the best. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be better than everyone in the industry. I wanted to be bigger, and at the same time, I had held so much shame about that, right? Because I know that power is bad, right? I see it out in culture, the ways that it's been abused and the way that the people are the biggest in the room, how they sometimes act.
Yeah.
And so for as much as I wanted that power, I was ashamed and scared of that impulse inside of me because I didn't want to be a bad person. I didn't want anyone to think poorly of me, and I didn't want to take anything away from anyone else, even though I wanted to be the biggest in the room. And so, what happened then because of that at the beginning of my business, and I think a lot of women listening to this might relate to it, in order to not be that thing that I thought was so terrible,
Mm.
I made myself small,
That's it. That's what we
right?
do.
That's what we do. But what ultimately, and then the impact of making yourself small. You don't get to be big, right? You don't get to shine your light. And it's all in service of, I can't be that because that is bad, right?
Mm.
Now, thank goodness I realized at a certain point what I was doing. And my inner process was to hold space for the parts of me that wanted to be the biggest in the room, to not hate on them and be ashamed of them and judge them, but to love them. My process was even to hold space and have compassion for the parts of me that were jealous of others instead of hating on those parts and feeling ashamed of those parts. And as I did that really deep inner work, what happened for me is that I formed a different relationship with the part of me that did want a lot of power and did want to be. It was no longer shameful. And I learned how to be with it in a way where I get to be big, but not extinguish the light from others
Yeah.
at the same time.
I'm so curious because I've had so much interaction with you. What do you think made you want have that desire to be the greatest, the best? I mean, I'm just literally just curious right now, like what I know of you, you're so humble, you're so, you're not, I would never have thought that you would have that. So I'm just curious, like what in you, what from your childhood, or what inside of you made you like, I want to be the best out here in this field?
Yeah. Yeah. I think two things. So one, again, I think part of it is human nature. We are, as humans, we want to shine bright. And also we're competitive. There's nothing wrong with competition, right? I mean, we see competition in the sports world all the time in beautiful ways. It helps us get better when
Yeah.
we compete each other, right? So part of it, I'd say all the best parts of me wanting to be big come from human nature.
Mm.
That being said, it also comes from some wounded places. So I have, my parents are both immigrants. They both struggled a lot when they moved to the US. I have a lot of trauma in my ancestral history. And because of all of that, there is a story in my family that's deep in the bones from
Mm.
all of that wounding, which is in order to survive, you need to be the best.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. Because as an immigrant, a direct immigrant, that is the opposite of what I heard. I was like, it's like, no, you fit in. You don't stand out. You don't speak out. You blend in. Like, not about the best. Like being the best was like, who are you to be the best of anything?
Yes. Well, it's funny. There was that too. It was conflicting, but no, for me, it was so strong of you want to survive. You need to show them that you are worthy because, because you are being judged 20 times more than anyone else. So you need to rise even higher to show
Mm.
that you deserve it.
And I think I'm glad we got here because I do think there's so many women, there's so many ways that so as women, or as women of color, or as an immigrant, or as a only whatever, as a neurodivergent person, like whatever makes us different, we could take that and it can play out the way you're talking about, where we have to be 10 times as good because then we're not gonna crack whatever, like make a difference. Um, and that then could make the desire for, let's call it, power, tap into those wounds and natures that you're talking about right now that we're not even aware that is in us. And without that self-awareness, we don't realize now we could end up being that toxic leader who is trying to have control because they think that's the only way they can succeed. Speak to that, Joanna. I know you know a lot about this.
Yeah, I mean, that is it exactly, right? So when we go for being big, even when we go for being the biggest in the room, we don't want it to come from those wounded places, right? We want it to come from more of that human nature of wanting to shine our light because when it comes from exactly what you're saying, when it comes from the wounded places, then it can turn into I need to be that, and I will squash anyone else in my place or hold them down or stab them in the back or do something to oppress them in order to be big. But if it comes from this place of, I get to be big and you get to be big, and I'm still going to try to be the biggest because, this is what,
Yeah.
right? Like, but we all get to be big.
Yeah.
And I understand inside of myself that I want to be the biggest at the same time, and I'm okay with that. Then it doesn't have to come with the power over, with the oppression, with the manipulation, with the backstabbing,
Yeah.
with the constant comparing to others as well, which can hold so much of us back.
Yeah, I'm so glad because I think so many of us, like, what my book is called, It's Your Time to Shine, Girl. So many of us as women are afraid to shine our light. And I agree with you, Joanna. I have a vision, and part of the reason why I'm holding this summit is of women each shining in their individual, unique way. And everybody just like, you shine. And everybody's all happy and joyous of in our light. And nobody's like jealous. Everybody's like, my light is this, your light is that, but we're all great. Like, we can all be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can all be great, 100%. And it's okay that we want to be really big. That's why I'm sharing it here and I share it a lot, when you were surprised at this idea of, oh my gosh, Joanna, but you want to be the biggest in the room. I want to normalize that for us too, right? It's all okay. It's about how we use it.
Yeah.
It's about how we're treating others as we are working to get bigger and bigger and shine our lights more and more.
So Joanna, you're the queen of transformational deep work. I mean, this is literally this is her zone of genius, y'all. Um, what got you on this path? And maybe you've already addressed it, but share with us if there's anything more you want to say about what got you on the path to doing the depth of work you do to train other coaches, practitioners, healers to go deeper, to get to those hidden parts of ourselves and all the things that you do.
Yeah, it wasn't just one, singular event. It's been a lot of, um, it started with what we were talking about before, being the child of immigrants and, having so much wounding, and knowing that there has to be a different way. But I will tell, yeah, I think the story that's maybe the most relevant here, it goes back to this power piece. So what I didn't share earlier is that at the beginning of my business, when all of this was happening, I had a business partner. And we were wonderful friends and great collaborators. And we were leading women's circles. And the way we would prepare for these women's circles is we'd come together, we'd decide on the topic, we would prepare the outline and the curriculum, and then we would divide who was going to take which piece. Well, inevitably, every single month for every single circle, I wanted the bigger pieces. I wanted the shiny pieces. But I wouldn't say, hey, I want
Mm-mm.
it. And it's because I was so ashamed that I wanted to be big. And I didn't want my business partner to think, who is she that, she wants this? And I didn't want to take anything away from her. So month after month, I would just let her take the big pieces so as to not look bad. But I still had that impulse to want to be big. And so what was happening in our circles is my business partner would take a big piece. And then it would be time for me to facilitate the next piece. And instead of just going and facilitating my piece, I would backtrack onto her piece and try to sound smarter, right? And like not on purpose,
Yeah.
but it was because I wasn't claiming this power and this bigness. Now, my business partner, wonderful woman, she let it go on and let it go on until she didn't anymore. And she said to me when she said, Joanna, what's going on here? What are you doing?
Right.
And it was a wake up call for me. And when she said that, I could see that I wasn't only doing it with her, but I was jealous of other women in town who were leading circles. I was worried, are they bigger than us? Are people going to them? It was just this thing that was consuming me. And um, when she said that, I said, okay, what's going on here, really, for me? And I'll get really personal here for a moment. As I started to look, what came up for me pretty quickly was a remembering or an association. So when I was in my mother's womb, when she was pregnant with me, she didn't know she was pregnant with twins. In her second trimester, she lost the other baby. I grew up my whole life with this subtle feeling of I was too big
Yeah. Oh my
and it
goodness.
harmed that other soul,
Yeah.
right? And once I started to see that and all of the judgments that I was making on me being big and all of the fears I had that it would harm others, that's when I was able to actually, in a very real way, start to reclaim and own and love the parts of myself that wanted to be really big.
Oh my goodness. That's so when you started saying, I'm like, oh my God, I know, oh my gosh, like I could so see that being so real, Joanna, like you taking responsibility for what happened to your twin that didn't come to being. And like, but that you became aware of this, I think is amazing, because who would normally become aware of something like that? That's not, you were in your mother's womb. Like, how would you know what I mean? So this is Joanna, y'all. She knows how to go deep with herself and to help others go deep with themselves and their clients. Um, wow, I thought I think I wanted to ask now. So as you are today, Joanna, I mean, this is many, many years ago. How do you feel like you fully express your power, and what does it look like? And how do you harness it?
Yeah, yeah. So I love the question, and I don't think anyone has ever asked me this before. And you know what comes to me as you say it is how I express my power and what it looks like. It actually looks different in each moment.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's about being loud and dramatic. And you've seen that, when I teach and I move the room and activate the energy. Other times it's about being quiet and with myself and introverted. Sometimes it's pushing others, in all good ways. Sometimes it's being selfish in all good ways and claiming the time or the space that I need for myself. So I think in every different moment, I'm meeting that moment with what my power authentically and appropriately is gonna look like for that situation.
Wow, that's a great answer, actually. And it's funny because I think I have had a sense that you are an introvert, or you might have said it before. That's why I was like, and I'm an introvert too. It's so funny. So we can be, I want to put this out there for everybody listening and watching. You can be introverted, but also want to shine bright, also want to be amazing. Like, introversion, people always assume introversion means, okay, no, I'm not going to be out there. I'm not going to do the thing. That is not introversion.
Agree. I totally agree. I always laugh because I say, as an introvert, I really get overwhelmed at parties when I have to talk to too many people, but put me on a stage with hundreds of people
Yes.
in front of me and I'm in my element.
Yes, I have so like the energy and the all the things that come out, and nobody believed that I am a huge introvert, but it's about people and networking and things. And so yeah, so introversion is not, let's just make it clear, doesn't mean you can't showcase your brilliance in a huge way and be impactful in a huge way and be the best of the best. Doesn't mean any of that. If that's the lie you're telling yourself, Joanna and I are saying today, okay, Joanna, let's go here. So, how do women who are dealing with shadows of power issues, what steps can they take to start to be aware of this and address those issues within themselves?
Yeah. So it is a deep process. I can name some of the pieces, but what with shadow, sometimes a lot of times we want someone supporting us in it because we're going to some deep places,
Yeah, it's
right?
hard to do alone. Yeah,
It is. It is. But the first step is to become aware of the part of ourself that is a little unsavory, right? Like I said earlier, the part of ourself that is maybe kind of greedy, the part of ourself that is maybe a little jealous, the part of ourself that is maybe overly competitive, right? So to say, all right, I have that inside of me and try to be neutral about it. From there, we want to try to understand it more and become better friends with it so that we harness it and control it instead of it unconsciously harnessing us.
yeah. I think the big point here, and you said it, it's true. Like, I don't know anybody who can do their own inner work at that depth, because how can we be objective about ourselves, with nobody mirroring whatever? So if you know that you're struggling with the shadow of power that Joanne described here, you need to find someone, whether it's a therapist, a coach, someone who can help you, a mentor, who can help you unpack that. Because as she's saying, this can be the thing that's getting in the way of clouding the true power that you actually have, right? So Joanna, you were the person, and I was sharing this with you earlier, that put me in touch with one of your programs called Sacred Rhythms, which I love, probably my favorite of all. I don't know why. An archetypal energy. You're the one who got me in touch with the power of our sovereign, and what she looks like, how she expresses herself. Do you want to speak on that for a minute?
Yeah, I love that you're bringing that in because it's so related actually to everything we're talking about, right? So the sovereign, and since the summit is for women, I'll speak about the queen as the sovereign. The highest expression of the queen or the sovereign is the one who sits on her throne, who knows her power and owns it, who understands that she has brilliance and mastery. She's experienced a lot in her life and she owns it. But here's the other thing about the queen. She doesn't see her throne as higher than anyone else's.
Mm.
She uses the power of her throne to help her queendom, to support who needs to be supported, to lift people up and to shine her light. But she's not intimidated by other queens on their thrones as well.
Yeah. And what I want to say there too, because again, Joanna's the one who got me in touch with mine, and I'm so much more. I try to be embody that. Oh, let's talk. We gotta get an embodiment for a minute, but I would say that not. So this is something I'm learning about myself now, Joanna, and it's like it's also people I tend to attract. Not scared, not intimidated by being the only one to do something so completely foreign to the community or the system or the organization, because we know like this is the thing. So the disruptors in us. I realize I am a disruptor, but I call myself a quiet one. Maybe I have some things to work around with that, but to make me out there disruptor. But I literally am a disruptor. And there are some of us who, but I think, and owning that energy of, you are designed this, if you know you're designed to be the first, the only, the person to do that new, innovative, creative, unseen thing that hasn't been done or initiated or created before, it can feel so like crazy. So like, how do we embody, Joanna? I mean, in the best way you can with because we all need help with all this stuff. How can we embody that queen, that energy, however she looks like for us? Let's say she's a disruptive queen in a good way, and I mean disruption in a good way, for the good, right? How can we start to embody that energy?
Yeah. So, usually the first pieces of work around that are number one, looking at our fear of not belonging, right? Because the, when we disrupt, there is the very real risk that some people are going to get upset with us. Some people are going to reject us, and some people are going to want to cast us out. Right? That is something that anyone who is a disruptor, who is a genuine leader, has to come face to face with. There are gonna be those moments, right?
Yeah.
So, in order to embody all that you just so beautifully shared, we want to work with that fear of not belonging, right? And we want to get our nervous systems regulated around the fact that some people aren't going to want us to belong, right?
Yeah.
The other piece that goes hand in hand with that is in order to be a disruptor, we need to be 110% keyed into and connected to our mission and vision,
My God.
right? We
Yeah.
have to believe so deeply in the change, whatever that particular change is that we're trying to make and the impact of it, that that becomes even more important than some of the fallout of it.
That's that right there. Say it again because I know that's so real and true. Say it again, Joanna. Let them hear it.
Yeah, we need to be 110% keyed in to our vision and mission and the change that we so deeply believe in that we want to see happen in the world. Without that, we're never going to have the courage to disrupt.
And the motivation to keep going despite the rejection or the backlash or the judgment from others that we know will come with it.
That's right.
Oh my God. So brave. So it's to embrace that, if you are that energy of the queen, just know you're not alone and know that you are meant to be you. Joanna, please speak to this. I don't know, because I'm speaking to myself right now, but
Yes, no, you're speaking exactly. Yes. I mean, we all have this inside of us. We are all meant to sit on our thrones and have a queendom that we make better in our own way. And it takes courage, exactly as you said. And it takes believing in ourselves, and it takes believing in the change that we want to make in the world.
I just love it. So we're nearing the end here. I was gonna say, we talked about the shadow of power. Anything else you want to share on that point about the shadow of power, Joanna?
Just the other piece that, and there's so much to, go into and say about it, but I think just the other piece is, that I said, but I didn't say it this clearly. Don't be scared of your power. For anybody listening to this, you can have power and use it ethically and for the good of the world. For so many of us, when we say, but I want to be more powerful in the world, it's usually because we're scared of what that.
Mm. I just had a thought. When you think of a woman who has embodied power the way you see it most brilliantly, does anybody come to your mind?
Mm. I mean, for whatever reason, and she always gets mentioned, but I mean, Oprah is just the first that
Oh,
came to mind. You know, you can see it like when you watch her, she's not putting herself above anyone else. She sees the power and the potential of everyone. She knows her own power really well. It's so inspiring. And then she uses it to empower others.
when you watch her, she definitely has, especially the season of life she's in right now, definitely sovereign, capital S sovereign energy. Like
Uh,
she just exudes it. I mean, watching her talk about when she was in the Democratic convention, I was like, look at Oprah. She's just Oprah. That's why she's Oprah. Everybody knows who she is.
yes, such a role model.
Oh
Such a
my
role
God.
model.
Wow. So, Joanna, you have a free gift you're going to be sharing with our audience. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this whole idea of shadow and starting to look at and make friends with and own the parts of ourselves that we've maybe tucked away. I have a free ebook about how to just start to understand what that means more.
Love it. Well, thank you for all the amazing brilliance and gems you drop and the deep insights. Again, ladies, you want to probably watch this again to hear all Joanna's wisdom. Thank you so much for being one of my speakers at the summit, Joanna.
Oh, you're so welcome. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad you invited me.
Oh, thank you. See you, ladies, sometime soon in the next session. Bye for now.